There are so many different ways to upgrade your microphone, whether it's through physical things like boom arms and cables, or less tangible things like EQ and processing. But one of the most fun ways to upgrade a microphone is to switch it up with a new windscreen. So this on your screen right now will be a hopefully not long-winded video, pretty much sharing everything I know and every thought I have about windscreens in kind of three main areas. The first would be the functional use of windscreens, other practical purposes, like those plosives right there, and what the ones I use and where I get them and what the heck is even happening on this table right now. That's what is going to be in the table of contents for this content. I hope you're content with this content. So as I implied just now, windscreens can serve a few different purposes, and believe it or not, the first purpose of a windscreen is to screen the microphone's capsule from wind. Shocking. And that could mean like wind in nature, but it could also mean environmental things like an air conditioner, airflow, or even the hot air blowing out of a speaker's mouth like me right now. And this is slightly different than a pop filter. So pop filter, windscreen, two sides-ish of the same coin, but a big difference here between a pop filter is it's mainly geared towards plosives. So Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. This is filtering out all of those plosive puh sounds. But there are some key differences between pop filters and windscreens. The first is a pop filter typically goes just on the address side of a microphone. So, and this one right here, this MV7 Plus, you speak into the end of the capsule, so you would place a pop filter there. On the microphone I'm talking into right now, that's actually where this pop filter came from. It would go on the front of this shock mount, and then Peter Piper pitched a podcast because this is a side address microphone. So that way I'm talking into here, and now it's preventing plosives that way. A windscreen, though, is a little bit different because what that will do, it will go on the microphone, and then it shields the capsule in all directions. So if I'm using my pop filter, it might prevent my breath from affecting the capsule, but it's not going to do anything to prevent wind from coming in this direction over here, or airflow, or whatever it might be, especially if you're outdoors. There's usually not too many unexpected strong gusts in this room where I'm standing, but when you're outside, you have a lot less control over things, and so protecting the entire capsule with a windscreen is often a lot more practical than a pop filter. And the other downside to pop filters, they're great, probably deserve their own separate pop-in video, but the other downside to them is mounting them. Like this shock mount right here does have a spot where I can mount a pop filter, but if you don't have that or using an aftermarket one, sometimes finding a place to like clip it on your boom arm or clip it on your microphone or your mic stand can be a little bit tricky if your mic doesn't specifically come with a pop filter that it's intended to work with, whereas a windscreen is so much easier. Even like this microphone is not really intended to work with any of the windscreens that I have right now, but I could take this SM7B one, pop it on there, and now I've got a windscreen on my NT one from the SM7B, and that is unbelievable. So we are going to be talking specifically about windscreens today since they are the most practical and simple. We're not really going to focus too much on pop filters right now. And that's, as I just plosived out this capsule, let's talk about the function of a windscreen. Like I mentioned, the main function to block out wind and plosives, but they can also affect a mic sound in a few different ways. You can almost EQ a microphone sometimes with a windscreen without having to dive into any other EQ and processing in your equipment or your software. So, for example, this is me on the Shure SM7B right now, and this is what this microphone sounds like. I quite like this microphone. And then right over here, I'm on the PodMic USB. I just knocked a windscreen down there. This is the Rode PodMic USB with no effects and no processing. And if I go between these two microphones, here's the PodMic, here's the Shure SM7B. They're both sounding pretty good, just running through the Rodecaster Pro 2 right now. But the SM7B kind of has a more like natural full sound. If we break it down into lows, mids, and highs, this microphone definitely doesn't take away the lows of my voice. It doesn't take away the mids, but it doesn't emphasize the highs. Whereas if I go over here to the PodMic, it doesn't emphasize the lows so much, and it kind of leans more towards the highs. You can hear it almost has kind of a harsh sound sometimes when it's not EQ'd and it's not processed. So you can run that through here. I can turn on some processing. There's my PodMic preset. Did a whole video about how to make your PodMic sound good using Roadcasters and Rodecaster Duo and Rode Connect and all that. And I actually like the way this sounds a lot. And I use this microphone fairly frequently like this on these frequencies. And if I turn that off, this is the natural sound of the pod mic. But if I didn't want to, or I wasn't able to use a mixer or an EQ like that right there, I could kind of match these microphones, or at least tame some of these high-end sounds with a windscreen. So specifically, this is the Rode WS2. And the reason I want to use this one, it is a big, fat, crazy thick windscreen. It's kind of nuts. And if I pop that onto the pod mic without anything else, there's now Peter Piper pitched a podcast. I can try as hard as I want talking directly into the front of the microphone. There's nary a plosive to be found. And again, I'll take this off. This is what the pod mic sounds like without this, $20 windscreen. And this is what the pod mic sounds like with the $20 windscreen. I didn't change anything else. And the reason I wanted to show that is because now it's a little easier maybe to use these two microphones together. You're trying to mix and match some microphones in a setup. You have an SM7B, you have a pod mic. They naturally sound quite differently. If you're not using a mixer, you could then maybe EQ them using just a windscreen. Going back over here to the pod mic now, this is what the pod mic with a windscreen sounds like. And this is the SM7B, just sort of with, it is a custom windscreen, but it's no thicker than the standard windscreen. And that brings them a little bit closer together. And of course, if you could add EQ, if I go back over here to the pod mic and then I turn on my pod mic EQ, now it's a lot, more full and rich. I was going to say full and rich, just like me after the holidays, but that's not true at all. So I think that's kind of a cool thing that you can use this windscreen to tame the high end of the pod mic and make it sound like a more high-end mic. And Rode actually did even come out with more stylish windscreens. Oy, there's so many windscreens here. These WS14s, these are cool because they come in all these different colors, or you could just get, a classic black one. Comes with the pod mic USB actually. But if you want a different color or you have the original pod mics, then you can use these. And these do change the sound just a little bit. So here is the pod mic without any effects or processing, without a windscreen. And here is the pod mic with the WS14. It's not as drastic as the WS2, but it does prevent plosives a lot more. And it looks cool. I think it looks cooler than this one. So you kind of then are riding that fine line between your visual appeal versus the function of, do you want to kind of muffle the microphone to get rid of some of the high end, which is nice on a microphone like this. So that's a look at the basic function of a windscreen, because you can't spell function without fun, or T-O-N, a ton of functions. But there are also other practical uses to windscreens. Specifically, I have kind of this whole rainbow of colors here. That's cool, and it's really fun. And I like just popping on, a cool colored windscreen on my microphone, but that also can serve a more practical purpose. For example, if I have multiple microphones, then having them be different colors can be incredibly helpful, because now if I'm recording multiple microphones into a mixer and you're doing a podcast or a stream or something like that, now instead of having to say like, hey, boost the level of microphone number 2, and then being like, wait, who's on mic 2, which thing? You can just say, hey, boost the level of the blue microphone. And then on your mixer or your interface, you can make a note of which is the blue microphone. And if you're using something like the Rodecaster Pro 2 that I am doing here, you could do something like this, where I have a blue microphone and a blue cable, a green windscreen and a green cable, a pink windscreen and a pink cable. And on the Rodecaster, I can actually adjust these channels. Get this out of the way so you can see that. The blue microphone, believe it or not, goes into the blue channel. The green one goes into the green channel. Pink one goes into the pink channel. So there's a very practical purpose to using different colored windscreens. It can also then go into more branding. If you're working for a company and your primary color is neon green, instead of just having kind of this dull, boring, black, plain windscreen, you can have a green screen, a green windscreen. And then, of course, this does carry over into the third thing that I wanted to look at, which is just the style of windscreens and making your microphone look a different way. I know sometimes people lament, like, who cares what a microphone looks like? It's all about what it sounds like. But the fact is, people do listen with their eyes first a lot of times. And so having something that looks cool, I don't know, it can be really fun. It's also fun for you. Sometimes, you could have a great microphone, but if it's just kind of like, looks like garbage and isn't that exciting to use, it might not be that encouraging for you to use it. But if there's something you're really excited about, like for example, this blue Rode NT1 Signature Series microphone, I had a black version of this microphone. That was the exact same microphone. But then I bought the blue version because it's more fun to me to use the blue version. And that has zero impact on sound or anything. But it does honestly make me use this microphone more often. And those are kind of, look, I have guitars, right? There's a reason I got this guitar in this color because I love this color. If this were just a solid black guitar, it would still look awesome. It would still sound just as great. But seeing this surf green color hanging on the wall over there kind of encourages me to want to play with this guitar more. It is more fun to use. The same thing does apply to microphones. And so that's where a couple of years ago I went hard down the rabbit hole of colored windscreens. So I really need to give a shout out to my friend Doc Rock, who has an amazing YouTube channel. Back when I got my SM7B, it does come with just this plain black windscreen. The SM7B also comes with this big fat windscreen here if you really want to block out every plosive in the world. But then I saw Doc on a stream using a purple, actually it was this one, using a purple SM7B windscreen. And he said he got this from a website called reporterstore.com. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I went to that store and I bought a whole bunch of windscreens. There's a lot more even on my shelf over there. They have this perfect blue color. And then pop that on my SM7B. And now it looks weird to me when I see an SM7B that doesn't have the bright blue and black. Like, this is what an SM7B should look like to me because I've used it this way so much. And I love that. I think that's really fun. And Reporter Store windscreens are really good quality, but they are based in Europe. And so if you're in the US like me, shipping can be a little bit expensive. The windscreens themselves are, $20 to $30, but they're high quality. Believe it or not, you can't just like paint a sponge and have it be a windscreen. It doesn't work out that well, but the shipping can kind of be expensive. So a lot of times what I've done with the Reporter Store is I've sort of waited until I need like a bunch of different windscreens, and I kind of make like a wish list. I'm trying to get some of my Reporter Store ones here that I've ordered over the years. And then once I need a bunch of them, I order them all at once. So I only have to pay shipping on like one order instead of a bunch of individual windscreens. Kind of going back to solving problems with windscreens, this is the Shure MV7 Plus, but I have the windscreen from the original MV7. So Peter Piper pitched a podcast. This was a huge complaint I had about the original MV7 when it came out, was it's a great microphone, sounds awesome, super prone to plosives, and they give you this tiny little thin crummy windscreen, which made no sense to me because the SM7B comes with really high quality windscreens, and this one is like Wish.com windscreens, and I wished that I had other options, so I had to go to reporterstore.com and order other ones because, fortunately, SM7B windscreens, Peter Piper pitched a podcast, worked perfectly on the MV7. They just sort of changed the size a little bit. And then the MV7 Plus did come with a slightly improved windscreen. It's a little bit bigger. It's not any thicker, but it's a little bit bigger. I talked about this in my MV7 Plus review. So then Peter Piper pitched a podcast. It helps reduce plosives a bit. So sometimes you really need one to make your microphone sound good. And I'm kind of surprised Shure hasn't jumped on the chance to make their own custom windscreens more. But one thing to note when it comes to windscreens is you do get what you pay for. In the case of Reporter Store, unless you happen to live near them, the price can be a little bit high because you're probably paying international shipping, but they're really high quality. And I've had some of these for years at this point, and they still work fine. They've held up well. They don't fade or get messed up or anything. But I also have I think this one was a $7 Amazon one. And I did a blind test with my wife where I had her close her eyes and gave her a Reporter Store windscreen for the SM7B and an Amazon windscreen for the SM7B. And even just closing her eyes, she could tell this was a higher quality one than this. Because this is really just like green foam that I guess has been molded here. Functionally, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. It works pretty well. It looks okay. It did take a really long time to finally regain its shape when I got it because it was vacuum sealed, and it also stunk really bad. So I had to leave this outside, I think, for 2 days till it offloaded all those gases, who knows what else in there, and then it's been fine ever since. Never had anything like that with the reporterstore.com ones. And then it is pretty cool because I did see that Ore at B&H Photo started making SM7B windscreens that actually have the plastic ring. So the windscreen that comes with the SM7B has this plastic collar on it, and then that clips in here. And so that way the windscreen doesn't come off or come loose. And it's also easy when you see a windscreen with this plastic collar. it's like caller ID because you know it belongs to an SM7B. But every other SM7B windscreen I've seen doesn't have that, which is fine, especially if you want to use them with other microphones like MV7s or the Blue Sona, which you can't see but is on my wall over there. But these ones actually do have the plastic collar, so I can pop that on the SM7B, and then Peter Piper pitched a podcast. These are almost identical in quality to the original Shure one, but unfortunately, well, I guess however you look at it, they only come in like the primary colors. I don't know if you can see this box right here. They come in like the primary 5 colors. They don't really come in any of these super bright, crazy colors. So if you like one of those colors, you're good. If you want something like this neon green or hot pink or bright blue, they don't really come in those colors. But then going back to my friend Doc, because he's the one who told me about this and he's been obsessing over this for also years at this point, a lot of these actually, all of these ones here are actually ones he has made working with manufacturers to create molds and go through materials and create his own pop filters, which he's calling Doc Pops. I'll put a link in the notes, but you can go to docmerch.com and pre-order your Doc Pops. Or order them now. Depending on when you watch this, it might be available. This sounds like an ad. This is not an ad. I am not involved with any of these companies. I don't get kickbacks from any of these companies. But these are great because it's that thing where, you know, it's a problem solved by someone who had the problem. So they come in these really nice colors. And just like the reporterstore.com ones, these are high quality. These are genuine like acoustic foam. They're not just cheap sponges like the cheap Amazon one that I had. And they come in really nice colors. He's got them for the SM7B. So Peter Piper pitched a podcast. He's also got some for the Pod mic. And then he's also got MV7 and MV7 Plus ones as well. So you can take, well, I really like the neon green's like such a perfect color. So you can take those and pop those there. I've been using these a lot because I like them. They're high quality. And it's fun because every time I use one, it reminds me of like one of my friends. And that's kind of a cool thing. The cheapo Amazon ones are fine. They get the job done. These Ori ones are kind of middle of the road. If you have an SM7B, the reporterstore.com ones are very high quality, but a little bit higher price. Rode makes some really awesome specific ones. And then Doc Pops kind of fill in the blanks with at least a few popular mic models. And so my goal here is to not only explain the function of windscreens and the purpose of them, but also talk about why you might want these fun, funky colors, different places that I think you can get them from. And then also just kind of the reminder, this has sort of been my mission lately, I guess, is to remind everyone that it is okay to have fun with your audio. A bright green windscreen might not affect your sound, but it might make you have more fun using your microphone. And I think that will come across in the things that you create with that microphone. And I really love that windscreens let you do that, but they also then do add some functionality. So it literally does put the fun in function. And speaking of things that are fun and functional, thank you to everyone who helps keep my channel functioning by supporting it through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. And if you want to learn a little bit more about microphones and different ways to use your microphones, check out these videos right here.